virtual meeting, we will have two speakers, Luiz Henrique Paiva, former National Secretary of the Bolsa Família program in Brazil, and Beatriz Moapi, from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Welfare from Zambia. And as moderators, we have Fabio Veras from IPC and myself, Lívia Nogueira from IPC. So the idea of this virtual meeting is an activity very participative. So the structure, the following slide. So the structure of the meeting is, as you can see, we will have time to everybody to present yourself. So it would be good if you can inform and present your country and give us your name and your institution. And then speakers will have 30 minutes to present Brazil case and Zambia case. And then we will have time to discuss the presentations. And then we will have time to share your own experiences from your country. And then another time to discuss the national cases. And then we will conclude and finalize the virtual meeting. So if you agree, and we can start the presentations. And my name, as I said, my name is Lívia Nogueira. I'm here in Brazil, and I am Senior Project Management Officer in IPC from UNDP. So Fabio, if you like to present yourself, and then we can give the voice to other participants.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Fabio Veras. I'm a research coordinator at the International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth.
Luiz Henrique, would you like to present yourself?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Luiz Henrique. I'm here speaking from Brazil. I'm now a researcher at IPEA and an associate researcher at IPC.
Beatriz, would you like to present yourself?
Hello, good morning. My name is Beatrice Moapi from Zambia. I'm the Principal Education Officer working for the Ministry of Community Development and Social Welfare in the Social Welfare Department. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I'm at the World Bank offices, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Angela?
Hello. I'm Angela Collet, UNDP consultant for research on gender and social protection. I'm Brazilian and based in Mozambique.
Thank you. Grace?
Grace from Uganda? Yes, I'm called Grace Banteria from Uganda. I am a professor at the School of Women and Gender Studies. Right now we are drafting a strategy on gender equity and social inclusion for social protection.
Okay. If you can, everybody, if you could put in mute your microphone in order to only listen the person who is speaking. So if everybody can do this, our connection will be better to everybody. Thanks, Grace. Jean-Baptiste? If you would like to present yourself. No? Okay. Linda?
Hello. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Hello. Hope you can hear me. My name is Linda. I'm a student at Trinity College Dublin and currently conducting my research with UNICEF and Irish Aid in Ethiopia. My research is on the implications of intra-household decisions on nutrition in the SNNP region. So I'm looking at gender and cash transfers, and I'm happy to be a part of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Jean-Baptiste? Okay. So, Paul, would you like to present yourself? Sergey?
Hi, I'm Sergey Bouliane. I'm a social policy officer, UNICEF Kinshasa. I hope that my partner, my colleague from the Ministry of Labor, Social Welfare will join me. He's on the way. I mean Anatol Mangala. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey. And Swed? Swed Ahmed? Swed Ahmed?
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so I am Swed Ahmed Fatma. My name is Fatma.
Fatma, sorry.
Working in the Fatma, no, it's not. And I work in the partnerships and social policy section in UNICEF Mauritania. And I am with our partner who will present himself. We are not really, our English is not so good speaking, so I don't know if we, so please, it will be a little difficult to speak and to explain things in English. So we will present our presentation, but it will be a little bit difficult to, because we are French speaking, our partner is French speaking, so it is, we should have translate and so on. So okay. I will present himself.
Okay, well, my name is Ahmed Abdallahi. Social register international is a project funded by the World Bank and Mauritanian government. Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Lydia? Lydia, would you like to present yourself? Muhammad Sadi Yahaya from Nigeria.
Yes, good morning everybody there.
Good morning.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So I'm here waiting for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. And again, we would like to ask for if you can, if you could to mute your microphone in order to listen only the speaker. Okay. So next step in your virtual meeting is start the presentation. So,
Livia, hold on just a minute. There is someone that is registered as FPSP. So if the person that's registered as FPSP could present itself.
Okay. Thanks. My name is Ramata Sangware of Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. I work in the Ministry of Protection, Social Protection and Employment. I work in the section of links protection with World Bank project of World Bank cash transfer. I'm responsible of measure accompaniment and cash transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's Ramata Sangware?
Yes.
Thank you, Ramata.
Thank you. So, anyone else? No? So, can we start the presentations? Okay, Luis Enrique, if you can start your presentation now.
Here we go. I would like to thank my colleagues here at IPC and our colleagues at DFID for organizing this meeting. I'd like to say hello to Beatrice, who will share with me the responsibility to hold the presentations. I am going to focus fundamentally on the Bolsa Familia program and cash transfers in general and gender issues. Alicia, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Just to present the Bolsa Familia program to you, most of you know already, but the Bolsa Familia program is one of the pioneer conditional cash transfer programs in Latin America and in the world. Cash transfers have in general three main components: cash transfers, conditionalities, and complementary programs. Cash transfers have the objective of immediate poverty reduction. Conditionalities have the objective of poverty reductions in the long run. Fundamentally, we believe that more access to education and health services will permit for children to reach their adult time, facing a better prospect to escape poverty. And finally, complementary programs are short-term as well, and they have the objective of improving the prospects of adult members in the labor market. While conditional cash transfers and conditionalities are in general part of core parts of the conditional cash transfer programs, complementary programs are in general, they are executed in coordination with conditional cash transfers. The next one, please, Alicia. So, about the Bolsa Familia program, it reaches about almost 14 million families now, 13.8 to be more precise, roughly 46 million people, which means roughly 1/4 of the Brazilian population. It monitors school attendance of 16 million children and health conditionalities of 7 million families. Dozens of other programs use the single registry for social programs, the Cadastro Único, to offer complementary programs. Benefits are paid via bank card, and they vary according to the size, the family size and level of poverty. They tend to be modest anyway. extremely poor families receive a top-up benefit since 2012, and these top-up benefit lift them above the extreme poverty line. The next one, please. As most of conditional cash transfers, the Bolsa Familia program also adopts a gender-oriented approach. 93% of card holders are women. Actually, whenever is possible, the card holder are women. And the question is this good? We have two sorts of feminist critiques that should be taken in consideration. The first critique is that conditional cash transfers reinforce traditional female roles. They demand from women more time to care of their children to assure that the family complies with conditionalities associated with the program, etc. And the second feminist critique is that conditional cash transfers in general do not expand the traditional set of choices available to women. The critique suggests that these programs do not support a more independent and autonomous life. I will try to respond this question. Are these critiques fair? And I would say that, at least in the Brazilian case, they are not entirely fair. The first point is that conditionalities here in Brazil do not demand any major effort from beneficiaries' families. So what the Bolsa Familia program requires from families in terms of school attendance is just above the legal requirement that the family experiences. And we have 2 obligatory or mandatory visits to health clinics per year, which is not a huge demand either. So I think that this critique that the Bolsa Familia reinforces the traditional female role could be a little bit exaggerated for the Bolsa Familia program. And regarding the second critique, I think that conditional cash transfers in general and the Bolsa Familia in particular cannot be solely responsible for expanding the set of options available to women. There must be several policies whose objective is to improve women's prospects in the labor market and in their social lives. In Brazil, particularly after 2011, a set of policies for productive inclusions were acted at Bolsa Familia beneficiaries, reaching especially women. So most of our job training programs reached women in a proportion of 2 per 1 compared to the way they reached men. And so we've got here a few results that I collected from impact evaluations and other studies. First, a few evidence from impact evaluation. The first one is that the Bolsa Familia program increases by 1.6 the number of times that pregnant women receive prenatal care compared to non-beneficiary pregnant women. And as it comes from an impact evaluation, we can assure that it's an impact coming from the program. And also Bolsa Familia, and more importantly, Bolsa Familia increases the proportion of women that are making their own decision regarding several subjects, such as purchase of durable goods, of medicines to children, and especially the use of contraceptives, always compared with non-beneficiary women. We also have evidence coming from other studies that we are going to see in the next slide. So, in a study conducted by IBASI in 2007, 38% of women declared that they their decision-making power regarding how to spend family funds increased after they became beneficiaries. 48% declared that they felt more independent from a financial perspective, and 28% said they felt more respected by their partners. Few studies also suggest a small reduction on female labor supply from beneficiaries. It's not clear, however, what this means. If this means that women are giving up paid work and part of their independence, or simply being less subject to precarious and low-paying jobs. So we can reach a few conclusions here. The first one is that there is evidence that the Bolsa Família program has been effective in improving women's decision-making on relevant areas for gender equality, such as contraception. In my opinion, at least, the hypothesis that the Bolsa Família program has reinforced the traditional female gender roles doesn't look exactly compelling, but we have to keep it in mind, especially we policymakers. The third conclusion is that, in my opinion, we should not expect too much from conditional cash transfers in promoting gender equality, or to be honest, in any other outcome. Conditional cash transfers have a role to be played, and probably they have been played this role, but it cannot be considered the main solution for any social problem. So what I can say is that benefits paid preferably to women probably is playing a role, is increasing independence, it's empowering women, but will not constitute a revolution on their own. And finally, and this is probably underrated possibility to use conditional cash transfers, is that they can be successfully used as a platform for other gender-oriented policies. And if we can concentrate several gender-oriented policies to the same public, so we can finally have greater impacts on women's financial independence, work prospects, social integration, etc. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time and patience.
Thank you, Luis Henrique Paiva. And now Beatriz will present the Zambia case, and then we will start the moment to questions from the participants, and new participants will present themselves yet. So, you can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Henrique, for such a wonderful presentation. Zambia is also going to present on gender and social protection. This is being done by me. Next slide, please. Is ours, eh? Next slide. We can go to the next slide. I'd like to note that in recent years, the social protection in Zambia has emerged as a major focus in efforts to reduce poverty and vulnerability. Social protection is defined as policies and practices aimed at protecting and promoting the well-being of the people. That is one of the most key cardinal issues. So social protection not only tackles income poverty, but also provides effective support for broader developmental objectives, which include better nutrition, health, and education outcomes. So as a result, social protection measures in Zambia have promoted empowerment and more balanced gender relations. Next. So the social protection policy was developed in 2014, which was aimed at providing strategic direction to government and other key players in the implementation of projects and programs. In this case, the policy on this goal identifies 4 pillars, namely the social assistance, social security, livelihood and empowerment, and protection. So further, the policy provides an institutional framework identifying key role players as well as a costed implementation plan with key strategies. In this case, we are not saying that Ministry of Community Development does not act in isolation. We have other line ministries that are also undertaking the social protection issues. So for the demographics, you can see where Zambia is lying. Zambia is a landlocked country with 8 countries bordering them. So you can see, I'll just show you where Zambia is lying. Next. Yes, next. So under the demographic, our area is 753,000 square kilometers, and the population is about now almost nearing 15 million people, and of which 58.4 are rural and 41.6 are urban. When you look at the aggregation of women, we have 50.9% female and 49 male. With the poverty levels, they have reduced from 67% to 54.2, and the fertility rate is 5.5. I would like to note that our maternal mortality is still one of the highest in the world. We have 382 over 100,000 live births. So you can see the population, the age gap, and what is falling from 5 to 14, 15 to 64, and above 65 years, you can see it's only 2.6. But the maternal mortality, I must still say, is one of the highest in the world. Out of the total labor force, we have 7.8% was unemployed. Females, let us look at the females, made up of 60.8% of the unemployed, while 39.2% are males. And the unemployment rate is actually highest in the urban areas. So the poverty datum line was 60.5%, and 42.3% is in extreme poverty. Next. I'm showing this graph to indicate the formal sector is very, very low. The people that are in the formal sector, they are only translating up to 944,000 as compared to the ones that are in the formal sector. 4 million, almost 5 million are the ones that are in the formal sector. Next. Next slide, please. Okay, what are the challenges when we look at this? There's inadequate employment opportunities. We can already see from the graph that the formal sector is very, very little, 14% as compared to the one that is unemployed, that is high. At the international global shocks, when you look at it, Zambia does not live in isolation. We have also been affected by the economy of Zambia. When you look at the power relations, men are more likely to have an upper hand as compared to the women. And demand on collateral when borrowing with high interest rates have hindered a lot of people from borrowing, especially the women. It is very difficult for them. The demand on the collateral aspect, sometimes it goes up to 45%. And most financial opportunities are for those in the formal sector. We saw that it is very, very empowering. 14% of people in the formal sector, no one can survive. When you look at the cultural norms, we are really embedded in the cultural norms. Everybody, because of the cultural aspect of a woman against a man, they are really, really embedded, and that has really highly affected on the way we perform as women, though it is improving. And notwithstanding the high poverty levels, these have actually deepened poverty and further created inequities with men and children being most affected. So when you look at the gender and social protection, gender is recognized as a critical factor in achieving the sustainable development goals. Women and men face different constraints and barriers that can limit opportunities for men and girls especially. And it is very clear to see how that has been done. So such constraints mean that girls and women are actually disproportionately represented among the extreme poor. They not only limit women's access to the labor, but often confine working women to more poorly remunerated, more casual, and more insecure jobs. We can even see that in the thing. So in order to curb the gender inequity and address the poverty, the government has put in place the following measures. Development of various policies such as National Social Protection Policy, Youth Policy, and National Gender Policy. So these programs, which are skewed towards gender, include the Social Cash Transfer Program, Women Empowerment, Food Security Packs, and the JUBO, which has come on board. Under the Social Cash Transfer, in 2003, the Social Cash Transfer was first introduced in Kalomo with a caseload of only 169 beneficiaries. When you look at the numbers, look at 2016, we are covering 78 districts out of 105 in total. You can see how much we have escalated in order to try to improve the women's welfare. From 4 million in 2010, it has gone to 250 million, and translating to the fact that the government is owning the program in the sense that it can actually have this coverage. And 62%, I'm proud to now announce that 62% of the Social Cash Transfer beneficiary households are women. And this is due to political will, capacity building. This is a joint program between the UN partner and the government. They really give us a lot of technical support that has really helped us. We have adequate administrative support, which have built in some systems. And there's clear communication strategy. We have developed a clear communication strategy that trickles down up to the lowest level. And investment in systems, including the evidence generation. As my colleague from Brazil, even us, we had the impact evaluation result, which has proved that women decision-making have improved drastically because they have a voice within their own kind of programs that they're undertaking. Next. Next, please. Okay, so when you look at the women empowerment programs, this is also skewed towards the women. The women empowerment programs are organized to form clubs and associations where they are provided grants for income-generating skills. So out of 20,000 clubs, there's 1,000 clubs that are being funded, and they're trying to look for more funding that can really assist them. Then we have this village banking, which has proved to be very successful. As compared to the clubs, this village banking targets individual women who engage also in income-generating skills because they have to pay back the little grant that they're given. So this has proved to be because everyone is serious, and it ranges from $20 to $200. When you look at the food support program, this is where agriculture inputs are given to vulnerable but viable families. As compared to the social cash transfer, they are poverty and incapacitated. But for the food support program, these are the ones that give to vulnerable but viable families. When you look at the non-formal skills, this is where functional literacy is for adults is provided, so then they can have a voice and know what is happening within their own respective surroundings. And there's also skills training, such as bricklaying, carpentry, are also given. So with this, it is also proving under the ministry, the women empowerment programs are really advancing, so that then they can also know that they can have a voice, and they can have some little kind of capacity building and some resources that can move them forward. Next. So I'm glad to announce that there's a new dual project. This is Girls Education and Women Empowerment Livelihood Program, where the World Bank has financed Zambia with $65 million. This will ensure that, the 1,000 girls is one of the districts that was going to award, but it is going 14,000 girls countrywide will be taken to school. The literacy levels are still quite high, illiteracy levels, so we're trying to take 14,000 girls will be provided with grants to be taken to school. And then 75,000 women will be provided with grants for sustainable income generating activities. The whole purpose of this program for the duo is to narrow the gender gap, reduce vulnerability among children, and also strengthen the family ties. So Zambia has noted that only not one program can work, but with the others, it can do that. So in conclusion, I can say that promoting gender in society is cardinal. Therefore, there's need to move social protection intervention, not only to address poverty, but to promote gender as well. Hence that all these policies have been done. And Zambia, when you look at the impact evaluation that was conducted and was presented in Tanzania, we are really, really escalating towards that. Thank you very much. No, thank you.
Thank
Then,
you.
as a way forward, we're going to discuss. Yeah. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. Thank you for your presentation. And now we will have time to discuss and to present questions to both speakers. And we also have new participants that joined in our virtual meeting. So we would like to give them a time to present themselves. So we have Ariel Gandolfo. If you would like to present yourself, your country, and name and institution, please.
Also, you need to introduce yourself.
So we have also a person who is registered as CFS. CFS. If you like to present yourself as well, your name, country, and institution. No. And Jean-Baptiste. Would you like to present yourself?
Yes. Can you say Zambia has also got?
No. Okay, so
we have also from Zambia. We have a new participant.
Okay.
You mentioned the name.
Yeah, I'm Olusungu Simkoko. I'm from Ministry of Community Development. I'm under the Social Cash Transfer Unit.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
And now you can present questions to speakers. And we would like, again, to ask yourself to mute your microphone. And just the person who is asking for the speaker should have unmuted the microphone.
I don't know to mute my.
So anyone has questions to Beatrice or Luis Henrique regarding the Brazil and Zambia case? So Fabio, would you like to present any question?
Hi. I would just like to provoke a little bit both Luis Henrique and Beatrice. In both presentations, I think you made a clear point that the social cash transfers would not be enough to generate gender equity. It would be important, it would contribute. I think Luis Henrique used the words, it could be used as a platform, as a springboard to enhance gender equity, but it could not be the sole responsible response. But if you, as former manager and managers, were to suggest some modification in the cash transfers of both countries, Brazil and Zambia, that could enhance the ability of the program to foster gender equity, which aspect of the program would you change or would you strengthen?
Yeah, I'd also like to ask a question from Uganda. Hello?
Yes.
Can I ask?
Yes, Grace.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luis and Beatrice, for the presentation. And I have one major question for both of you. And normally we have these social protection programs, especially cash transfer, and we expect them to address gender issues, to empower women. But when actually in the design, hello? I want to know, to ask you, were the designs of these programs in their respective countries, did they take into account gender issues in the design, in the programming and implementation? Because sometimes we expect them to address gender when we have actually not planned for it.
Yes, they will take into consideration the gender issues, because every time we're having a program, it is skewed towards the women.
Hello, would you like us to, are we answering or we wait?
I don't know whether you answer, but I think one of the other things to add on, I think it's to understand that the fact that the program is targeting women alone is not gender. Yes. Women alone is not gender, yes.
I think, thank you very much. When you look at gender, it is not just the women, because gender is also men. So what we do, because when I presented to say the high poverty levels, it's more on women than men. So in order to narrow the gap between the two gender, the male and female, the government has taken a policy to say we should be able also to involve more women, because the women are the ones that are more vulnerable. But even in the social cash transfer and some programs, we are including men as well. When you look at the social cash transfer composition, we said 62% are women, and then 42 are also male. So we are trying as a government, as a policy, we are not leaving the men behind, because they are also gender. In order to equip the programs, we are actually including on them. And the other question, I think that was asked, how can you, I think by Fabio, he asked on the how can we improve the social protection. It's not a standalone. The social cash transfer cannot be a standalone in order to improve the gender equity. So what we have done as Zambia, like we have said, it is not just lying in one ministries. It is in about 4 other ministries, so that then we encompass all these other kind of programs that can be done. And hold on for my friend, he also needs to include something.
Well, thank you so much for this question. What I can say is that if you look at vulnerability levels, normally women and children are the most affected. So what we've done is that statistically, even if you were to go to the official data, that is the Central Statistics Office, you find that the women are more in numbers, even in terms of population. So what we've done is that we have deliberately designed the in the systems of administration and implementation. We are saying that in terms of recipients, they should be women. So we encourage that the person who goes to collect these cash transfers when they are ready should be the woman, even though they may not be the head of the house. Secondly, what we have done is that in terms of the structures managing these, when you go into the local communities, there are those structures which we call the community welfare assistance committees. We are emphasizing to say at least 60% of the representation should be women. So, and those decision-making positions like the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and probably the treasury, they should be a woman. And the other committee members may be men in a group of, in a committee of 10. So, of course, cash transfer by design was meant to gap the poverty. But we realized to say you cannot do that when you leave out the woman, because by statistically they compose most of our population. So they need to be key players in terms of the process of implementation of the social cash transfer.
Just in addition, what we have, when you feed the mother, you feed the nation. Impact evaluation results have shown that when a mother has been given some kind of resources, she really takes care of not just herself, but also the other household members. So I think it is working well in that sense. And even we see that the extreme poverty levels are actually improving to that effect. And women have shown, and men as well. We're also trying to push them aside, push them besides us, so then they can also be at a level where a woman and man can have the same voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. So now, Luis Enrique.
Okay, thank you, Fabio and Grace, for your questions. Regarding Fabio's question, to be honest, I don't have a clear answer for your question, Fabio. I think that the very basis for your question is that conditional cash transfers could do more than they have done so far. And to be honest, I am a bit skeptical about that. I think that conditional cash transfers have been doing a lot, and we should not, to be fair with these programs, we should not expect a lot more to come. Even more, I think that these programs need now to stabilize a little bit, to be part of the landscape, to escape a little bit from the political discussion. And I think that every time we introduce something new, we put these programs in the political discussion again, we put a new objective, we raise our expectations about them, and I think that, at least in Brazil, in the current political atmosphere, it should be a very bad idea to do these now. But anyway, I think that these programs are delivering pretty much what they can, and I don't think that we should try to change them a lot anymore. So from my perspective, I think that what these programs can do best is to be used as a platform, to offer a platform to other public policies. And Grace, I think that the most interesting feature about Brazil is that Cadastro Único reaches preferably women, and Cadastro Único is the basis for Brazil's Bolsa Família, but it's also basis for other around 30 programs at the federal level, and they reach mainly women as well, or they tend to reach more women. For instance, in terms of job training, microcredit, so most of beneficiaries are women. So I think that we have got now lots of programs working on gender differences. And finally, I would like to say that Beatrice is very right. I think that we should take into account that gender issues also affect men. Men are more affected by, men are more killed here in Brazil. Men suffer specific diseases. And men are performing worse in the schools in Brazil. They have been performance worse in Brazil for quite a long time now, and we should be interested in that. But anyway, I really don't believe that conditional cash transfers could perform a more relevant role right now. I think that they are doing well, and we should pretty much respect this. Thanks.
Thank you, Luis Henrique. Fatma sent a question, and Fatma, would you like to ask the question by yourself, or we can read to Luis Henrique and Beatriz?
Okay, you can ask it. I thought usually we have to write our questions. My question was some said that gender is not only about women. It is right that the gap is for the gender, for the women, because women we know that women there are a lot of difficulty with poverty and so on. So how, when targeting women, how we can include men? We have done cash project but we see that we are always speaking with women, working with women, but men are not really in our program. So I want, if someone has something or an intervention that can share with us to give us an example of where we can involve intervention. I hope
we need help. Please, Raj, please help me.
Okay. Everybody, Beatriz and Luis Henrique, have you listened the question?
No, we didn't listen because it was breaking, and we haven't heard anything. But if you explain, then we can try to answer.
Fatma, we received your question. Is the same question that you asked right now? If it is the same, I can read to everybody.
Yes, we really appreciate.
Okay, the question is the same. So the question is, how include men in intervention when targeting women?
Or how do you include men?
How include men in intervention when targeting women?
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a good question. How do we include men when we are targeting women? Because firstly, we must know that women do not live in isolation. They do not live alone. So when we are doing the targeting and others, we look at them, and then the women, the men are also invited for the initial meetings. Even if it's a woman who's going to be the beneficiary, the men are invited, so then they can have a voice. They can also support what the government or the other partners are doing towards them. So men are targeted when they're having the voice, when they're having the initial meetings. Even if they're not going to be the ones who are going to be the beneficiaries, they actually support what the program is about, even for women. So they actually fully participate, because if they don't, sometimes, remember I talked about the gender norms, it proves to be very challenging for a woman to undertake some activities that are supposed to be taken. So if we include them and we sensitize them a lot, the time we are doing the sensitization orientation meetings, the men are also fully involved. And with this, they go together.
Come back now.
Okay. In addition,
what do you say?
Thank you so much. I think the man and the woman in this one are very critical because they are our targets. So how we involve them again matters, because if you are going to leave out the men out of it, whether be it the women empowerment program or the food security part or the jewel, by and large, this benefit will come to the family. So if the husband or the man in this case is not appreciative of the wife or the woman being involved, then of course we will not see the multiplier effect from it, because once they resist it from the start, I mean, even if you were to bring so much dollars into the house and the man is resistant, how do you break through? So we involve them from start. At the point of inception, they are all involved as a community. Then later, that is when we bring out to say, I think for us, our target group is ABCD, and the intention in the end is to reach out to these people in such a way.
And then also, I would like to share with you, I think in all the meetings that I have been, we have not yet found what Zambia has done. There's a communication strategy that we have developed and have come up with a number of interventions. And some of the interventions that we have done is come up with a cultural group. A cultural group, when they're doing the inception, they perform and come up with all the gender issues. Why should a man should do all that? In the end, I think it trickles down into their minds and say, no, even us, we have to change. In addition, we also include the traditional leaders. The traditional leaders are very influential. So when we have the orientation workshop for them, we call the traditional leaders, who also informs them to say that you should support your women. And with that, I think next I would like to share with you the impact evaluation results that have shown for Zambia. We are trying very, very hard. It is not in every case that everybody, all men agree to it, but as we go on, we are keeping these norms. Thank you. Thank you, Henrik.
Okay. Well, thank you for your question. That Bolsa Família works in some way very differently from other conditional cash transfers. We don't organize groups of discussions. We don't try to mobilize people. They basically register themselves in Cadastro Único, themselves and their families in Cadastro Único, and eventually become beneficiaries if they fit the eligibility criteria. So I don't know if I have a question about how to include men in an intervention that is targeted to women. But I would say that I have an answer on how not to do that. And my impression is that we should not add new conditionalities to conditional cash transfers. Frequently, people will consider that adding conditionalities is a good policy response for every single problem that shows up, and particularly I don't believe so. I think that we should work trying to emphasize how important is the participation of men in education and health activities. So I think that health service teams and professors should emphasize how important it is for children that men are present in meetings at the schools, and how important it's for them and for their families to go to visit clinics, health clinics, etc. I think that we could act this way without adding new conditionalities that will just bring to these programs a lot of operational work that could probably generate no outcome or no perceptible outcome. So I think that we should work more on marginal activities that could gain importance and try to bring men to these activities, but not making this participation mandatory, because it will be very difficult to control it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I think just in addition, I want to add that for us it's not a conditionality, but we try to involve men as much as we can from the inception of the project, so that then they have a clear understanding, the objective of the social cash transfer, and we just try to orient them, especially the community, the CWAC members, the community members are the ones that really emphasize the goal and also assist, because within the community members, welfare assistant members, they're actually men also who participate. So that is another way in which they generate and they go in as well to try and assist in the program. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Sergei Buruyanov. Sergei, would you like to make your question to Brazil?
Yeah. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Beatrice. I have a question for Luis. You know, when you presented the result, you know, beneficiary, non-beneficiary, that is good, but that is, I know, it's a traditional way to present. My question will be linked with what you just presented. Have you estimated the cost of conditionalities that was included in Bolsa Familia, or do you plan to do some evaluation of, you know, results of Bolsa Familia for people who received Bolsa with conditionalities or without conditionalities? Have you done that, or are you planning to do that? And particularly in terms of would be the same result for women, for men? How will it make it more gender sensitive without conditionalities? Thank you.
Okay, many thanks, Sergey. Excellent question indeed. No, we didn't measure the costs of implementing conditionalities. But what I think is that we implemented conditionalities in a way that it tends to be considered very cheap from operational point of view, and cheap not only to the government but to the beneficiary as well. Because in several programs, what happens is that the family has to go, or the mother has to go to the school, get a paper saying that their children are going to the school, take these to the local program administration, and so on and so forth. It represents a cost for the family. Here in Brazil, it's pretty much everything is automatized. We generated at the central level lists of children that should be monitored. These lists go to schools via system, IT systems, and school attendance is a part of what schools monitor anyway. So the marginal work that they have to do is just to put this school attendance monitoring in the system, and the information comes back via system to the central government, and we apply sanctions when it's the case. So the system as a whole tends to be relatively cheap. It does not involve many people, just people that are in the field doing the school attendance monitoring, what they would do normally because they are professors, teachers, they are doing it, they are following, they are teaching. So, and for the families, there is no work to do. Simply, it's totally automatized. So I think that overall, the costs, the administrative costs of implementing conditionalities tend to be very cheap. Obviously, it's all related to the Brazilian case. So we have now the conditions to implement a system like we implemented. And I think that its costs tend to be very, very cheap. but it does not happen necessarily anywhere. And so I think that we should, I'm not a defender of conditionalities in any case. I think that we should make a proper evaluation if conditionalities should be or should not be implemented in specific contexts. So this is your first question. The second question is about evaluation. And I have to say that Bolsa Família was implemented in a way that it was not possible to evaluate, at least not in an experimental way, to evaluate the impact of conditionalities. This has been done a lot around the world. We in Brazil tried, Fabio, I, and a few colleagues tried to work on that, on this specific impact or effect on, of conditionalities here in Brazil. It's not an experimental design, but we truly believe that the results are good. And the general tendency of these studies are that conditionalities tend to be relatively effective by on their own. In other words, conditionalities have an impact on their own, independently of on the impact of cash transfers. But again, I'm not a huge defender of conditionalities. I think that they should be applied, they should be used only when the context permits it, and only when the context don't put excessive weight or excessive work on excessive bear on families, on beneficiary families. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would also like to add something as Zambia. A cost-benefit analysis was undertaken by School of Economics at the University of Zambia, and some of the findings were that our program is quite cheap in the sense that the community welfare assistance committees, they are voluntary, so it is very reasonable, it's very cheap, they are just voluntary, and we don't spend so much money as a government. And also the officers who are on the ground are actually working for the government. So with that, the salaries they get is what they actually implement. So when they did the cost-benefit analysis, I think we can share with you next time, but it is quite cheap for Zambia and in that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. We received 2 questions from Jean-Baptiste from Rwanda, and I will read both questions to Brazil and Zambia. So the first question is, there is a wild literature showing that women are poorer than men, and others showing that households headed by women are more vulnerable to food insecurity when compared to those headed by men. Based on those researches, different programs have been implemented and focusing on gender equity. My question is on monitoring and evaluation of those programs. I think that now we may be saying that we came from this point and now we are here. Yes, the problem is there, but if we do not monitor what have been achieved, we will continue with implementing many programs that can lead to misuse of the available budget. And the second question, also from Jean-Baptiste, is there any model related to gender and social protection which can be adopted when conducting socio-economic research and which can produce helpful findings to decision takers?
Okay. Can you be the first one, or we can be the second one?
Okay, I think let Henrik answer. Then we are following him. So Henrique, you can answer broadly, because as there are people, they said we are supposed to come out of this because there's another group that is coming. So I think we'd like to answer quickly before the others come. They are waiting to be online as well.
Okay, for us, there's been
Okay. Jean-Baptiste, thank you for your question. I think that the assumption that you have in your first question is very interesting. So many times we have developed too many strategies to deal with a problem, a social problem, and as we haven't evaluated them properly, we are taking the risk of just wasting public money, and I totally agree. I think that we should take evaluation into consideration all the time, and particularly to check if they have the impacts that we expect from them. And in the case of Bolsa Família, as I said, this gender component or gender oriented perspective that was adopted from since the very beginning was a part of our impact evaluation, and other studies have brought some evidence about this issue as well, and I think that
so we can say the model. The model.
Sorry?
The other model, but that's a good question.
Oh. Hello. Okay, thank you very much. And then for us, that was an excellent question with regards to the meeting. Yeah, for monitoring and evaluation, that was an excellent question.
Please, I'm so sorry, but I think Luis Henrique is.
Oh, sorry. Because there's so much noise here. There's so much people talking on the other. For online.
Our meeting started 21 minutes.
Just a message to everybody, if you please mute your microphone. Just let unmuted microphones from speakers, please. Thank you. Luis Henrique, could you continue your explanation, and then Beatriz?
Just to finish my my answer to the first question, I agree with you. I think that we should focus on a few effective programs and try to make them work properly, and try to evaluate them and check if the money is being spent in the best possible way. I will think a bit about your second question before trying to reply to it. So, Beatriz, I think that you could answer. Thank you.
Henrique, you've left me a difficult question. However, like I said, an excellent question. To start with M&D, it will become a white elephant if we don't monitor and evaluate our programs. For Zambia, what we have done, we have developed a monitoring and evaluation framework that actually supports the field work that we are supposed to do. The supervisory spot checks that we go, a team goes periodically to ensure that we are having that. And then there's self-evaluation tool that we have developed for each district that they are supposed to undertake. And besides that, we have a JAR, Joint Annual Review, with the partners that assist us with resources. Then after that, we come up with some of the findings and see if the low-performing districts are not doing well. We actually share with them and do. Sorry, World Bank says, the World Bank says we have to move out of this place because there's another video conferencing and we're having two. Can you just say that? Just hold on for the World Bank London, but there's another.
Excuse me, can you please conclude your meeting because we need to use this room?
Yes, but they should have left by now because our people are
Okay, Beatriz, and thank you so much to
I think for the model, I think we need to look at the different models that we have for M&D that we can also help the region, and also say both if they have the model for the M&D, then we can. I'm telling you, we are being told that we should. They started the meetings 21 minutes ago, and they told us that we should move out.
Okay, thank you so much, Beatrice and World Bank from Zambia. We will record the other questions and to send you, Beatrice, and you can answer later.
Yes, I'm firstly, I would like to say I'm very, very grateful for having given an opportunity to present with Henrik. This has been an eye-opener for us, and we hope that out of this something should come out and see how we are going to see the way forward. Because there was that conclusion and the next steps, how it is going to be done. So we are going to answer the questions that that are being asked, because we can't now. Yes. We are going now because everybody.
Yeah, we will invite you to an online community that we will have more time to exchange knowledge and to answer questions. So you are already invited to an online community that we will present at the end of this meeting. And we will send you an email with more information.
Thank you very much. And for Zambia, what I can say, we are very much indebted, and whenever there will be such meetings, we'll be attending, because we want to be sharing. And I think it has been a welcoming experience. And thank you, Henrik. Oh, they are really annoyed with me.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. He's laughing. You know, it has been such a nice, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
We have more questions, and I think Lydia has a question.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alicia. And I also want to say thank you to Beatrice and Henrik. The questions I would like to ask, I have 3 questions. Can I ask them all together? Hello?
Yes, Lydia.
Okay.
Please
What do you do when, what do you do when the men in a community, like in a particular community, go there and the men said you cannot empower their women, that they cannot receive the stipend, that you must give it to the men? I don't know if you have ever encountered such a challenge. Then how do you handle household dynamics? How do you ensure that the women take decision on how to spend this stipend you are giving them? And I also want to understand the feminist criticism and how it has been handled in Brazil. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, go ahead. Lydia.
I can hear another voice. Well, anyway, and as I said, Bolsa Família is not community-based. Basically, what happens is that the family in general, the woman goes to the social assistance agency, and they register themselves in the Cadastro Único, in the single registry for social programs, and the benefit is so it's paid to women. We really don't ask what men think about that. Whenever is possible, which means exactly, whenever there is a woman aged 16 years old or above, the woman is going to receive the benefit. And how we pay the benefit to women, we simply issue a bank card in her name, and she needs to go to the bank to set a PIN code, and so just her can handle the card. I don't mean that it's impossible that men are using their bank cards. I am just saying that it's very, very, very uncommon, and we don't hear about that frequently at all. Your second question is how to ensure that woman makes the decision on how to spend the money. Since the very beginning of the Bolsa Familia program, we established that we would not make any, well, we are not going to intervene in the way the family would use their money. Lots of people said, oh, they just, in the very beginning, that we should have some control on if they were not spending in things that were not relevant for family. But our assumption was that families, better than anyone else, should make this decision. And in general, women make this decision, and they as I said, research evidence suggests that they feel more empowered about the use of household resources. Again, I'm not saying that it works in 100% of the cases. I think that it works in the vast majority of the cases, if not in all. Finally, there's a third question about the feminist criticism and how it's handled. I think that part of the feminist critique is based on programs that require a lot from women, beneficiary women, that require them to take part in meetings and go into the school and do that and do that and do that. In case of Bolsa Familia, we simply don't have lots of requirements on women. With pay benefit, we require as conditionalities school attendance and at least 2 visits in health clinics per year if they have children aged from 0 to 7, or if they are the women are pregnant, and that's all. So it's not a huge burden on women. So I think that part of the feminist critique could be fair considered other conditional cash transfers, but I think that they are a bit exaggerated when we consider the Brazilian case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we have questions, a question sent by Jean-Baptiste, but we would like to open the discussion to other countries as well. We have participants from Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Mauritania, Nigeria, Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, and Cote d'Ivoire. So I will read the question sent by Jean-Baptiste, but we also invite other countries to make questions or present the situation in their own country. So first of all, I will read the question sent by Jean-Baptiste. Is in the case of Brazil, about cost effective of the projects. To what extent gender projects cost effectiveness can lead to the success of programs to promote gender equity? And then Luis Henrique, you can answer the question, and then we will open to other countries.
Sorry, Livia, would you mind repeating the question, please? I will read exactly as he sent. About cost effective of the projects. To what extent gender projects cost effectiveness can lead to the success of programs to promote gender equity? Okay, Okay. Well, Jean-Baptiste, thanks for your question. I think that cost effectiveness is basically an assumption for any kind of policy that governments adopt. If you're spending more money than the policy can produce as an outcome, for sure it's not a good policy option. And certainly we can find a different option that is less costly and is more effective. So we have to pay attention on cost of opportunity of using government money every time, and these obviously include projects, gender-oriented projects. Well, that's it. Thank you.
In order to give time to other countries to share their own experiences, we would like to know if in other countries how gender is considered on the design and implementation of social protection policies. Anyone like to share or to present the case in your country? Otherwise, what we can do is to finish our meeting.
Hello? Hello.
Hello, hi Jean-Baptiste.
Hi, nice talking now, I think. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I asked that question because they related to cost effectiveness. Because in most of cases in these developing countries, when taking decision on a project, they used to take the project which budget is low compared to the other one. I think that they don't go beyond and consider the cost opportunity of that project. Hello?
Hello, hi. Hi, Jean-Baptiste. I think your question is to Luis Henrique, to Brazil?
Yes, I'm responding to the Brazilian and focusing on developing countries.
Yeah, we could hear you, Jean-Baptiste. I agree entirely with you, and I think that cost effectiveness and the cost of opportunity of every policy should be one of the main concerns for public officials and for decision makers. Because, you know, in developing countries we have lots of problems, and we could not spend scarce resources on ineffective or excessively costly policies. So I entirely agree with you. I think that it should be on top of our concerns, and to be looking at the cost effectiveness of policies and the cost of opportunities, looking around to other policies as well.
Yes. And my last point is to, hello?
Hi.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my last point on this one is to define, to provide a clear definition on gender equity. Because most of the time when you say about gender, many population understand it in the line of women. And meaning that maybe men are not involved. So there should be a clear definition on this issue of gender equity or if there is, there should be different meetings or different results on it so that everyone take it as it is, because it take both women and men.
Luis Enrique, would you like to answer, or?
Well, I can try. I think that we normally speak about women when we are talking about gender, not because men don't face their specific problems, but because in general men are in a dominant position in society and women suffer more. They tend to be poorer. They tend to be less dominant. They tend to have less access to public policies. So yes, I agree. In certain aspects, men are lagging behind. Let's consider, for instance, male young students in Brazil. They have lagged behind women for a long time now, and so we should be concerned about that. But in most countries, the fact is that women have been lagging behind in terms of education. They are less educated. They have less access to the labor market. They have less access to high positions, to the best occupations, and so on and so forth. So I think that it's pretty much natural for us to focus on women when we are talking about gender issues. I think it is natural, and I think it is necessary. Obviously, we should consider specific problems that affect men as well, but I think that it's pretty much fair when we focus mainly on women when we are talking about gender issues. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Jean-Baptiste and Luis Enrique, but we have other questions, and we also have a presentation from Mauritania. I think Fatma, Fatma, are you ready to present or to explain the Mauritania case? Fatma Ahmed from Mauritania?
Not present.
Yes.
We begin the present.
Okay.
Yeah, hello?
Hello, hi. Are you seeing the presentation? Yeah. Okay, so please go on. I think they are facing technical problems with the microphone.
You understand me?
Yes.
Yeah, Sadi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I move on. Okay. So I'm going to present the work of my partner Ahmed Abdallahi, who is a social mobilization expert in the National Social Registry, Mauritania. Slide, please. So taking into account the complex and multidimensional nature of poverty, Mauritanian government, in the context of its strategy of social protection, is committed with an aim of
Yeah. already are registered through the TV, I mean the computer audio, and it is not going. Now I changed through the handset. Can you hear me?
Next, please. Yeah, we are hearing you. We are here and we are listening
Yes.
to you.
Okay, so my main concern on the gender social protection is that here in Nigeria, when we piloted in Kano State, we realized that when the women receive the cash transfer, especially married women.
I'm sorry,
Hello?
I think, hello. Hi, thank you, Mohammed from Nigeria. But
okay.
Just right now, we have Mauritania explaining the situation of social protection policies there. And we would like to invite you to present your question in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, Fatma Ahmed, can you continue your presentation? Hi. Hi.
Okay, so I said that this program has two goals. The first is that the National Social Registry plan to gather and analyze data relating to 100,000 poor households in 55 departments of the country, and it targets the most vulnerable to shocks and crises. And the second goal is that the constitution of a referential and reliable database will allow all programs in the field of poverty reduction from which to build reliable data concerning the categories of people, for example, young children, young mothers, old people, etc., without being linked to recurring costs to community targeting. Next slide, please. So the steps of the National Social Registry is the realization of the social registry includes the following steps. First, definition and subdividing of community spaces. Each area will be divided in some space community which present a certain homogeneity using the cartographic and statistical data of ONS, it is the National Statistic Office. Maps of the municipalities in districts, regional districts. This activity must be implemented in perfect consultation with local persons. We have in the second steps the village quotas, which is the number of households to identify in each locality, village or district, will be set according to the rate of poverty at the level of the regional district and the total number of household residents in this locality. And the first step is the establishment of the provisional list of the household concerned, so identification of the poorest households in each social spatial unit depend on the creation by the targeting committees, which undertake to supervise and validate the list that is suggested by the population of each community in the General Assembly. Next slide, please. verification survey. It is a large operation of data collection about the socio-economic particularities of households identified at the end of the previous phase of targeting. This collection is made through the administration of a household survey application. So the fifth step is the PMT, proxy means testing, that is used by the World Bank. So data collected during the survey of verification will be analyzed through the application of the PMT, proxy means testing method, to identify those households who are eligible for the social transfer programs. Next slide, please. So the third one is the National Social Registry activities. It's about National Social Registry activities. So the Social Registry had its first community targeting operation in the area of Mbut, in the region of Gorgol in Mauritania. This operation took place during the months of December 5 and 1, and January, February 12 and 16. The phase which has just been completed is the establishment of the provisional list of 7,582 poor households, divided into 50 social spatial units in the 9 municipalities of Mbut. This was the first step. The second phase will focus on conducting a survey of verification for the provisional list. This survey will be launched soon in perfect collaboration with the Office of National Statistics. The National Social Registry team will help the ONS teams to find households listed. And Ahmed is going to complete the presentation.
Thank you, Fatma, for the support. I think the main idea about the National Social Registry is related to create a strong database with all programs in activities in the social protection benefit for to target the population categories. We just began last year, in the end of last year, our activity. We took a poor shanty town in the inside of the country, we call it Tumbul, and we experiment all tools and ideas, and we will go after that to make the operation in all Mauritanian cities and villages. We are very happy to share the experiences with you and spend the times with you, and we are ready to respond at every question that will come from everyone. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. As I said, we have participants from other countries, from Brazil and from Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Uganda, and Mauritania. If we have another case or another question, you can do it now. For Nigeria, Any question? I think he's facing technical problems.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay,
yeah.
So I was saying that, okay, by the time we piloted the sample, we realized that mothers that have children of school age, and when they are given the transfer, this transfer cash is being seized by the husband. And when you attempt to stop the husband from utilizing the money that was meant for the female, then they decided to say, okay, if that is the case, we can break the marriage, and that can create problem within the family. So if you allow them, they utilize the money meant for the girls to continue with her education to go for another wife. You see that the aim is not being achieved, because the non-value, culture, tradition, and religions are also play a role in the transfer policy. So I think a new approach needs to be considered, especially in an area where the norms, value, culture, and tradition doesn't suit the transfer strategy. So we have to evolve another method for transferring the cash directly to women for social protection issue. How do you resolve this kind of issue in Brazil or any other country, so that we can share the idea with you, so that we can protect the husband from seizing the funds from the wife, which is meant for the child education. This is very vital here, and is affecting our progress seriously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any participant would like to answer the question from Nigeria? So we have other questions here.
Hello. Hi. Okay, you remember I asked a question earlier that what do you do when you get to a community and the men there refuse to allow the women to be empowered? We found this case in Nigeria because the sensitization was done from state to state and from community to community. Some communities will say, no, you cannot come here and empower our women, you will not be able to control them and all. So I want to think that sometimes in designing this kind of program, before a woman will be allowed to collect it, maybe you target pregnant women. If you said, okay, it's only pregnant women we are going to give this money to and to take care of their children, of course the men cannot get pregnant. So eventually the money will get to the women in this case, and they'll be able to take care of themselves through pregnancy and through after childbirth. That is one case. Another case is to sensitize the men. Like somebody earlier said, that you could involve the traditional rulers, and I think we should also involve the religious rulers, since a lot of leaders, since a lot of people listen to their imams, their pastors and all. So you talk to them so that they can intimate the men on how, when you empower the women, this will better the lot of the family more than empowering the men. Like my colleague from Nigeria just said, that sometimes when you give this money to the men, they go and marry more wives. Some will go and drink, and at the end of the day, there will be no impact on the family. But once you give the money to the women, you will find out that there will be more impact and there will be value for the money. When they started this case in Nigeria, they first started targeting 30% of women. They found out that these 30% were making more impact. They were making more impact in this area sending their children to school and having good quality food in the home than the 70% that they were women. So it was increased to 50% women, then eventually it was increased to 70% women. So at the end of the day, everybody is finding out that when you empower the woman, the family is empowered. And the whole world is turning into that now. That is when you are talking about gender, the issue is not just targeting both male and female sometimes, but focusing more on the women. Because once you focus more on the woman, the man also will be empowered, because the woman will not do it in isolation. That is my submission. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Lydia. So the idea now of this second plenary is just to provide a space to exchange among the participants. So Nigeria presented a comment, and also Lydia. So if other countries would like to present another comment or a question, this is the moment to have this discussion. We also received other questions, but as Beatrice from Zambia had a problem with her connection, we have we can do two different steps. We can have more discussion among countries, or we can conclude this virtual meeting and open the next activity that will be an online community where everybody, you and other representatives from other countries, could share other comments or problems or challenges that you are facing in your country. So any other comment from other country, or can we move on to the next activity? We would like to yeah, we are very I'm so sorry, because we had this problem with Beatrice's connection, and she would like to answer and to discuss further these questions with everybody, and also Luis Enrique. But if you don't mind, what we can do is to register these comments and questions to open the online discussion that we will have in a platform, as you can see in this slide. So you can follow the discussions, join in the online community, Brazil Africa Social Protection Community. You will receive an invitation to discuss further this point that we discussed in this virtual meeting. So you will find a link to join the online community, and also a link to join in a webinar that we will have on June 33 to discuss specifically social protection and the empowerment of rural women. And we will have representatives from FAO and other agencies and countries. So we can discuss different aspects.
Thank you.
Okay, so
hello?
Yes?
Sorry, please, are we going to have the opportunity of receiving this presentation on in our emails? Are you sending them to us?
Yeah, we can send the presentations to all participants.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lydia. And as I said, the online discussion and the webinar will be on the platform, thesocialprotection.org, and you will receive invitations to join in both activities. So the idea, as I said, is to provide space to discuss further challenges and problems that you are facing in your countries. So taking this into account, we would like to conclude our virtual meeting. If you don't have any other comment or question, can you conclude? So thank you everybody for your time, participation, and interest in this subject. And again, we would like to invite you to the online discussion and to the webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, bye.